This podcast is brought to you by Penji. Penji is a creative subscription service that gives you access to pre-vetted, agency-trained creatives from all over the world. From graphic design to illustrations to social media management and web development, it's all included for one monthly price. It's time to say goodbye to the hassle of searching for top-notch creative talent. With Penji, you get quality and consistency delivered right to your inbox every day. Carefully crafted for you by humans. So meet your new creative team today. Head over to penji.co for more and enter the coupon code located within the podcast show notes.
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us on the Fully Managed podcast. Lysa, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for inviting me, and I'm excited to be here.
Thank you. Okay, so today we're going to start with a game as usual, but this one is catered towards you specifically. So I hope you enjoy it. And if you don't tell me, it'll hurt my feelings. I'm just kidding. Okay, so this is called Start, Stop, or Scale. So I'm going to give you some scenarios that you may, experience regularly in your world, and you are going to tell me whether you want to start, stop, or scale that thing. So obviously, self-explanatory about what all those mean. So first, we're going to start with cold outreach via LinkedIn. Start, stop, or scale.
I'm a stop on that one.
You probably get that a lot. So I understand. Okay, hiring a fully remote team.
I'm in the middle with that one. Could be scale for sure.
Got it. What's your reasoning for that, if I am allowed to?
Because sometimes there are things that you can't get internally, or you can't get fast enough, or you can't find the right person. So having experts like on call is super important. So to me, I always prefer to hire local, but even locals remote. So I just think in general, you have to have people on call that are experts for the work that you need done when your team gets overwhelmed, or if it's just one specific task or something like that. So building your network of those people is super important.
Yeah, I completely understand that. It is something that if you can't find an expert locally, you shouldn't be sacrificing like quality just because that's something that you prefer. But at the same time, working completely remotely for something isn't always the perfect choice depending on what it's for. I completely understand. Okay. Running your agency like a media company. Start, stop, or scale?
Scale.
Scale. Okay, why?
Basically, just recently, Ladybugs was voted the #1 media website in Boston by Boston Businesswomen, which is a 50,000 strong women's network and program in Boston. So, we didn't get voted best digital agency. We got voted best media news outlet. And so, for me, I think that when you practice what you preach and you're able to show that, because, basically all of our companies, we want to run them sort of like a media agency where they're an influencer, they're an innovator, they're a leader, they're who people are watching. And so to be recognized as that, a best news agency, is awesome. And plus I have a PR degree. So I have always sort of operated my business like a bit of a news agency and a bit of an outlier, especially like when we started to grow, let's say 15 years ago, when people weren't really doing their own PR or their own marketing, and agencies are notorious for not doing their own marketing. So it's nice to be able to walk the walk and talk the talk and be a leader and be looked at as a leader, on our own website. Like, our website is not meant to be a news media website. It's meant to be an agency website, but yet people go there, they read our stuff. They could be competitors. They could be, wannabes that are trying to get to the same level. But the fact that they trust us enough that they're going there and, we're being watched is amazing. Like, that's just amazing to me.
Yeah, no, that is amazing. And it does, having won that award for something that you're running like, but you aren't necessarily that thing or identify as, it is a testament to the way in which you are showcasing clients as well, I think. Like in the way of, you can run like a media industry in the way of that you're showcasing brands or clients in a way that is, media driven. And that doesn't necessarily, you don't have to follow a specific archetype in order to be considered an agency, but I think there's a lot of overlap with both of those industries. So having built an agency that specifically champions women-led and mission-driven businesses, what inspired that focus specifically for you?
I think that in the beginning, I really did want to focus on women just because that's what I am, and I'm a women business owner. But I think in the digital agency space, it's always been sort of male dominated. And so, you hear a lot of people talk about, they get mansplained, And so I think in the agency space, it was, I was really at an advantage to be able to come in and have the level of experience that I had the many years, mostly like as a woman, and going through like different growth patterns and different things in the last 30 years, because not to age myself, but I have been doing this for 30 years. That's a lot of experience to bring to the table. And as a woman, a lot of experience. So I think that, women having another woman that they trust as much as they traditionally have trusted men in technology and the digital space was something that just needed to be done. And, over the last 5 years, we've seen the digital space grow a lot with women. And it's very specific industries too. So it is women in biotech. It is women in nonprofit work. It's men too. So we cater to both. But, the mission of Ladybugs was to help women, also help, growing smaller companies, founders. So having that a little bit boutique experience. So it started with sort of the women oriented, but that was just where we started. Now we're doing so many different things. So it's like this conversation in the beginning. I asked you, like, is there something certain you want, something specific you want to focus on? You're like, no, let's just see where the conversation goes and see where it leads. So that was sort of how we grew too. We're like, let's start this. Let's see what works. Let's see what people are looking for. And within a year, we were able to really solidify our products and services and our market and who our audience was. And so that was what allowed us to sort of scale very quickly.
Yeah, no, I love that natural progression of things, because I think often in the agency world specifically, a lot of people are trying to focus on a niche. And I think that people need to be reminded of is that you can focus on a niche for like advertising purposes, or like maybe you're the best at something, but that doesn't necessarily mean you need to like close the door for other industries that are interested in your service. And I think that's like a trap that many agencies fall into, is that they kind of have to reject anyone outside of this niche in which they set for themselves. And, like you might get the most out of a client relationship with a women-led business or like a mission-driven business. And maybe that's why you are more accepting of those specific industries. But that doesn't necessarily mean that like if a project or a campaign looks really attractive to you, then, what's the harm in saying yes and, trying something new that's not in your wheelhouse necessarily.
Yeah. And I think if you're not trying new things, and, again, this was something that's sort of the difference between where I am now and where I was with my previous agency. And I mean, this is a struggle for all agencies that want to scale, because to be considered valuable, you need to have systems, you need to have processes, and you do need to have those. But what happens is you get so stuck in those that you forget to innovate. And so, because creating those is really hard. Like I'm in almost year 5 of this agency, and we're really just in the like inventory of like in the beginning, the infancy of like getting all of that going and getting all of our systems intact. But, you know, my thought on that is like, once those are there, hopefully that allows my team to be more innovative because they don't have to worry about being innovative like all the time. Like, how am I going to do this? We have a system, but it still allows you to think outside the system. And the biggest thing for me, that's the hardest as an agency owner, because it is tied to who you are and people know you, they trust you, is that when you do want to try something different, you have to be okay to fail and fix, because you don't know unless you try. And I'm going through that right now. You know, I tried a new industry, I tried a new price point, I tried a new team. And I mean, it's going to be a great project in the end, but you know, there's a lot of things that we learned along the way and that I need to fix, and that I need, if I want to do this, I have to create that sort of perfect process for that. It's not the same as the process for a different project. So I think you have to be, you know, a little bit, you know, open to failing, open to disappointing maybe a client or two, and having to live with that, because that's the only way you can innovate, really. You know, not do the same things over and over and get the same result.
Yeah, exactly. It is. I think that if you are really terrified of failure, maybe marketing is not the space for you specifically, because, you know, there is a lot of this trial and error, and like the best campaigns are sometimes risky. And I think that is what, obviously there are many things that you have to prepare in order to prove that it might work. But there's nothing that's necessarily guaranteed, and it could be in no way your fault. Like, it was well researched and everything added up, but it just didn't happen the way that, you know, you wanted it to, and you learn from that, and that's how you adjust. And it is kind of a rocky world, but it is also, you know, taking chances and trying new things is how, you know, the biggest successes come out of that. So, I think that is a great way of, you know, being able to adjust and, you know, have your agency foundationally okay with that, that experimenting.
And then you have to encourage your team to do the same, because they don't want to fail, because they don't want to get, you know, they want to get fired or, you know, and not that we've not fired anyone to date, but they don't want to disappoint. They don't want to disappoint you. They don't want to disappoint the client, but sometimes you do have to take risks. And if it disappoints a client, that's just part of it. And because I think that's the only way you're going to get ahead, is by doing something that nobody else is willing to do or willing to try. And in the end, we're all at the mercy of Google. We're all at the mercy now of ChatGPT. We're all at the mercy of like Facebook and Instagram. Like right now, my Instagram account is like, I've been penalized. I don't do anything on Instagram. And, you know, when's the next time I'm going to probably talk to someone at Instagram? Like, I basically spent the last 5 years building an account that I'm probably never going to be able to access again.
Oh my goodness.
So, you know, and that happens to lots of people every day. Last week, a client is, Google took down his Google My Business for some reason. He still doesn't know why, but, you know, he was getting most of his leads on Google My Business. And so, you know, those are the things that you can't prepare for. Those are the things that you can't fix, because you literally are at the mercy. So if you know anybody at Instagram, or you know anybody at Google, let me know. I do have an account rep at Google, so that I could probably have done that. But, you know, and clients struggle all the time with this stuff. You know, like agencies struggle with it too, because they don't have, unless you're a big agency and you do maybe have an account rep at one of those like organizations, which I don't even know if they do, but you can be really like really hurt by that. You know, if someone doesn't get leads for a week off Google My Business, that's just crazy. Like, and there's really nothing you can do.
Yeah, it's unpredictable. And it's also what is, and I don't know, maybe fun isn't the correct word for it, but what is kind of fun about when those things happen is, yes, it's horrible and maybe detrimental, but there are other ways that you, like, it forces you to think out of the box when something that you've utilized for so long or relied on for so long is not working. And that is, you know, the way that a marketer can kind of show their ingenuity and like being able to be innovative in a space or for a specific campaign that something does go wrong that's out of anyone's control.
Absolutely.
It is a scary place to not be able to predict or anyone to really have ownership of many things.
You really are at the mercy of so many different platforms. Like in the end, how much control, do we have? Like you really have to play inside the rules, and you have to do all of that. And one thing that, and this is going to be a very huge topic, in the future, and it probably is still every day. I'm going to a webinar next week on AI, but how AI is affecting everything because, let's say a year ago, people weren't using AI to do blog posts or content or any of that stuff. And now everybody's using it all the time. And so if everybody's using it all the time for the same things, like how is Google going to, or how is Facebook, or how is LinkedIn, or how is ChatGPT, or any of these platforms, how are they going to handle that? So, I've seen other agencies that have never done blog posts ever, and they post like 10 a week now, or 10 a day, or like whatever. And it's like, that's all coming out of AI. Maybe it's getting edited or something, but it's like, how is that going to affect that business in 6 months? Like, is that going to trigger a negative response in Google? Is that going to trigger a response? And the other thing is, like, a lot of people will use ChatGPT to do, how can I improve this blog post? And they'll give you this formula that it uses. But then what happens when everybody starts using that formula? There's no innovation in how that's being done. It's like, okay, ChatGPT is telling you to do these things that it thinks Google wants you to do. But, Google's going to know that, and then Google's going to change it. There is kind of like this fighting going on between, Google's AI and ChatGPT and all the other AI platforms. So the AI is going to be competing against each other. So they're all going to be trying to figure out, like, how can I ding that so they come to me? How can I ding that one so they come to me? It's the truth. And I'm a writer. So, and an SEO person, really, those are my strengths. So it's like, how is that going to affect everything? And I'm just like, it's like a new relationship. It's like, I'm just going to like sit back, just, chill back a little bit, just keep doing what I'm doing, not embrace everything right away and see what happens. And, so right now you're sitting here and you're just kind of like watching it unfold. And I wouldn't say that that's keeping anyone behind by doing that, because I think that kind of thing is very risky. Like anything that's easy to do and requires little effort is a risky thing to do, because nothing works that way. Exactly. And maybe it'll work for 6 months, but then you could be penalized on Google for the rest of your life. So I'm always very careful about that stuff and what I embrace there. And so, one thing, the way that we've handled that is like what you're talking about, like being a media agency. So, making sure that client, anything that's about them or any content you're doing or for yourself is really, really relevant to your own business, and trying to get away from that more generic, like, oh, let's just get searches for this. Like you really want to like be very specific about what you want your searches to be for, what you want people to find when they come find you, how you want them to interact when they come to your website. And that's like, that's all thinking. That's not AI. That's all you and unique, because maybe you could use AI to be very, to get to know a business and to get to help them, but it's still AI. No matter what way you look at it, it's AI. So, you can use AI to help. You can use it to compensate for maybe some things that if you're stuck on something. But in general, if you're going to let AI do all the work, it's definitely not going to be beneficial to you. No, I mean, that's just my personal opinion. So, how do you embrace it as an agency? You embrace it from a productivity standpoint, I would say. Like, like one thing that we do a lot of is like, we used to take hand notes. And I hated taking notes because then I didn't get to talk to the client. I'd be like, so now we can all fully embrace the conversation, have it recorded. And now, like, transcribed. And I don't know how long that kind of transcription has been so accurate, but then the best part is it will say, these are the different things you need to,
Main points.
your checklist, so then you can take that checklist and you can be like, okay, we need to do this. We need to put all in Asana. So from an efficiency standpoint, I love that side of it, especially for somebody who's not that efficient. Like I'm a creative. So like if I'm working on something creatively, that thing could be a week of me being sucked into that wormhole.
Yeah, no, everything. I agree with everything that you're saying, specifically with being like wary about, they call it shiny object syndrome, but
Yeah.
I think that's really big with AI nowadays. Like there's so many tools coming out, there's so much noise, and I think there is reason to be wary for things that are seemingly too easy, because like AI itself, like even ChatGPT, it seems a little too easy, even just using it and utilizing the tool. But over reliance on it, I 100% agree with you, is not the best thing to do, because at some point there's going to be a backtrack, so to speak, in either of these platforms to try to identify who's, unique, like going through the noise. And I think it's similar to like this whole controversy that you probably hear a lot as well, of like SEO is dead kind of thing. I don't think that SEO is dead at all. I think it's more like it's changing a little bit. I actually think it's moving in a better direction of the idea that quality content is being, is showing up more now, whereas like the big conglomerates, like even HubSpot, that has created this platform based off of being the best at what they do, search traffic goes completely down because of how things have changed with Google and Meta and ChatGPT, and how even people that seem to know the best and make it easier and seem to know exactly what is making that, search engine tick at that point in time. I agree with you. If it's too easy, maybe it's not right. Like maybe effort is what shows in, shows the passion and the uniqueness and the, education that you can provide for your audience. And when you're not actually putting full effort into it, you're not going to stand out amongst the noise when everyone is doing that strategy.
100% agree. I think that's always been like our strategy. When I started this agency, people were like, are you going to, because I had an agency already called Ladybugs, which I started in the late 2010. I sort of started my company. I kind of went from freelancer to like first employee. And so I built that agency to have about 4 employees. So that agency was like not even half the size I am now, but it was called Ladybugs. And then I merged it with another agency and I worked there, and we did a little bit more B2B. It was definitely more like less creative. Basically, it was more systematized. It was more, this is how we did websites. This is how we did marketing. And so, so when I left there, I took back the Ladybugs name because I still had my website and different stuff like that. And I still owned all of the rights to everything. And so people were like, are you going to keep the name? And I was like, no, I'm going to come up with another name. And then I was like, I was doing like a lot of manifesting and a lot of like meditation, and just because I really wanted to know what my purpose was going to be, especially like I was 50 so I'm now almost 55. And so I was just like, what do I want? Like, what's my purpose? And I was just like, let it unfold. And every time I would get a client, it would be, oh, we love your name. We love your name. We love your name. And soon enough, I got too big that I couldn't change the name. And so like the name, even though it does sound kind of like it's a ladybug, it's cute and whatever, people remember us because of the name. Like if someone says, oh, I had an agency do my biotech website, and they name 4 agencies and they name our agency, they remember our agency.
Yep.
They don't remember the other 3 agencies. So the name has actually suited us very well. As far as I know, like maybe it hasn't, because there's what I don't know. But in general, I think it says everything about who we are and how we work and how we operate, because we are a fun company. We do, like, part of our whole shtick is like life needs to be fun, work needs to be fun. And I don't mean like fun, oh, let's party, but you need to enjoy your job. You need to love what you do so that you do the best job for your clients. And so, I think that's always been part of like who we are. And any client that works with us will pretty much tell you like they really enjoyed the process. It's one thing to rock it to the park with the project. The project's amazing at the end, and that is usually the case here. But it's another thing for them to say, I really enjoyed the process. The project management was great. I was highly involved. People got back to me. They gave me their ideas. We're all, good friends here now. And that is definitely something very different, because we are a boutique that, like, we'll start with a company that's small, like maybe 5 or 10 people. Maybe starts out as a $10 million company, or a 50 million or 100 million. In 3 years, that company could be, 300 million or 500 million. And so you kind of get in with these people early, you get to know them, you get to know their growth. And, most of our clients we've stayed with as they've grown. Like, we have clients that were startups and they're now hundreds of employees, and some of them are public. And so I love that. I love that they've stayed with us, and they love the ladybugs. And so, yeah. And, again, like, some people might go through our process and work with us, and that might not be the right experience for them. So it's not always the perfect fit for everybody. And that's okay. If somebody wants an agency where you come in and you're like, this is what I want, and this is what I want you to do, and just, that's not us, because, we're collaborative. And so if we don't get that collaboration, we don't feel we can do the best job. But there are lots of agencies will do that, and they're like, they have a system and they just do it. But that's not how we work. So it's definitely been an interesting journey.
Yeah, no, I really respect the collaborative effort towards client relationships as well, because I do think that, yes, there are agencies that will just accept, okay, you want to do this, we'll do it. Like, this is, whatever you want. And I think that mindset isn't always the best for the client. A lot of times you need to make a lot of adjustments during the process, and you can't just do exactly what they laid out for you. Especially, I think what's very funny about when clients come to marketing agencies saying, we want this very specifically and we want it done in a very specific way, it always boggles me of, why don't you just do this then, instead of going to an agency to ask for it to be done? And a lot of the time, I think that it works against, that business or company or whatever reaching out, because they think that maybe they know best, and that's not always the case. And they need to, I think that a good client relationship, specifically with an agency, is when you're both learning from each other. Because there are educational aspects to that kind of relationship, and educating on like why you're doing something, and being transparent with all the information that you are creating during that time. And those relationships, I think, are the best, but that's not always what a business wants. Sometimes they just want something to be done and not watch it happen, and just have the results in which they're looking for. And so I think that it really is dependent on the type of agency that you want to be. But I definitely really respect a collaborative look at it, because I think that has the potential to have the best outcome.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it really depends on the size of the companies too that you work with. So, we really enjoy this early growth, this early stage. We also really enjoy like transitional work. So rebranding, remessaging, repositioning. We really enjoy working with like legacy companies. So we do have a bunch of clients that have been around Boston for a long time. They might be, some of them hundreds of years family owned, some might be 50 years family owned, but they need to like, change it up for the younger generation to come. So that stuff has all been a lot of fun. And I think you do need more of a boutique agency to handle that stuff. Because those companies operate in a boutique way, even though they're big companies. Like we have one client that's a huge international company, but they still operate like a small business in many ways. Even though they're completely successful, they don't have issues or anything like that, but they like to just still have that feel that it feels like a small business, even though it's not. So they really care about their people. That's one thing that really stands out about them, and they care about their livelihood and like to the level that Ladybugs does. But this is a company with thousands of employees, and so I don't know how they do it, but it's pretty amazing to watch that still be a thing, being that big and still being a thing, because the founder, he just cared about the people. Probably why he's successful.
Exactly. It's fun to watch a client prosper too, and especially when you get to see that. I do speak to a fair amount of agencies that work with small businesses as well, and I think that it is really, it seems like when someone genuinely cares about a client and seeing them be successful, to see a small business go through that process is a more wholesome experience objectively, because it with a bigger business, sometimes you don't really see the effect that it has as well. You get to see the numbers and maybe you delivered exactly what they were looking for, but it is almost like a monumental moment when you can get a small business from point A to point B, because you can really see like the fruits of your labor. And I think that is an experience that is really I don't know, like motivating for the next client.
Yeah, so much fun.
So so I really love the way in which you clearly care a lot about your clients, in that aspect is like your favorite part, it seems.
I think it's everybody's favorite part, to be honest. I think the other thing is I really care about my team. So, just a quick like information about Ladybugs is we are mostly freelance based. So like one thing from my experience that's difficult for agencies is to staff full-time designers and developers. And it's because, you're not always busy on the project side. And so you can really hurt your business if you're paying somebody a high paid freelancer to be a designer, but you're not paying for that salary or not making enough money to, and those types of jobs can like really make and break small agencies. Yeah. So if an agency all of a sudden doesn't get any websites and they still have to pay a web designer, then what's going to happen. So I've been very lucky because I've been in this industry for a long time that I know a lot of people that don't want to work full time. They want to pick their project. Like they want to work with cool clients. They want to do cool jobs. They don't just want to be like, oh, do this job, that job. They want to do things that inspire them. So that's allowed me to build a team that gets super excited about like everything we do. It's like, I want to say we don't get shit work, like, and not a nice way, but we don't get crappy work. We get work that's exciting. We get clients that are excited, and we've been really lucky to do that. But, when we started to bring a lot of freelancers in, we gave them a lot of autonomy. They're people I've known, they're people I've worked with. So they got to have a lot of autonomy, and, I don't have to manage them. So a lot of those people, they go in the projects, they work with the project manager, they work with the designer, they work with the writer, and I don't even have to worry about them. They're so amazing, So, I think that's how you want your company to run. Yeah. And I think for me, the way I scaled was by doing that. Like if I had to hire those positions, it would have been a lot harder because I think full-time employees versus freelance employees or contract employees, it's a whole different ball game. Obviously contractors charge more, so you have to provide the services that you need. And employees, they just get to come to work every day and do their job, and they get paid a salary. So they are not always as motivated to get the same results as a freelancer. And so like our freelancers just bang it out of the park. And so the people that do work in the company are mostly operations people. So most of the creative people are outside the company. So they're contractors, or they're half-time or three-quarter time designers, developers, writers, and then the internal people are mostly project managers. So
oops, sorry.
No, that's it.
No, that model is really unique, and I like it a lot because of the way in which you can kind of pick the proper person for like a campaign that you think like
talk about that a lot. Because like people, it's not like we have 100 people either. Like we have 3 designers, we have 6 writers or 8 writers. So like it's not like we're bringing in different people all the time. These people are working with us all the time. Yeah. And so, you know, you get to have this level of trust. They get to have their own clients, and they get to learn from their other clients and bring what they learn here. They get to learn here. They get to bring that to their clients. So it is really a win-win situation, because freelancers are, you know, they work alone a lot. They don't get that collaboration. They don't get that that kind of camaraderie. So I do think that is what they get here. And I think they love it here. Most of them have been here with us since we've started, and we've had some new people, and we're bringing on new people all the time, but it's been a lot of fun. And I really love working with the people I work with, which is, I can't say that's always been the case, you know?
Yeah, no, I very much get that. Well, I think this is a perfect way to end because you left it on such a perfectly wholesome note. But I really do. I love the passion that you have for not only your work but also for your team. And I just really appreciate you joining me today. This was a really delightful chat to learn about you and your business. And I hope that you continue to have this outlook for the future, because I think that, you know, when I truly do believe that if you're happy with what you're doing, then your work is that much better. And it seems like that's exactly what's happening here.
We definitely love what we do. So,
well, thank you again so much for joining me. I really appreciate it.
It was a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Great to meet you. And I look forward to staying in touch. And I love meeting people and networking with new people. So anybody who wants to get in touch with me on LinkedIn, feel free.
It'll be in the description. You guys can check her out. And also your website will be in the description as well, so everyone can check that out as well. And yeah, thank you everyone for joining us. We'd be nothing without you. So check out other episodes and get to learn like I get to every time. Thank you so much.
You've been listening to Fully Managed, brought to you by Penji. Check out the show notes to learn more about today's guest, and to learn more about Penji, the human-first creative subscription service, head over to penji.co. And by the way, if you're still listening, it would mean the absolute world to us if you were to share this podcast with a friend, and of course, subscribe.